Why do narcissists seem so confident at the beginning, yet often become deeply frustrated when they encounter a Sigma female? It's not because she's louder, it's not because she's more aggressive, and it's certainly not because she enjoys conflict. In fact, it's usually the opposite. The Sigma female doesn't fight the games, she refuses to play them. That simple choice changes everything. A narcissist depends on predictable reactions. They seek admiration, control, attention, emotional chaos. They need other people to keep feeding the image they've created for themselves. But the Sigma female is different. She isn't easily impressed by charm. She doesn't confuse confidence with character. She doesn't desperately seek approval. And perhaps most importantly, she isn't afraid to walk away. That combination quietly dismantles the very foundation on which narcissistic behavior depends. Now, this doesn't mean every difficult person is a narcissist, and not every relationship with a narcissistic person ends the same way. Human behavior is complex, but certain unhealthy patterns become much less effective when they meet someone with strong boundaries, emotional awareness, and deep self-respect. Today, we'll explore 10 reasons narcissists often fail to control Sigma females, and why their usual tactics stop working. Let's begin. 1. She doesn't need constant validation. One of the strongest sources of power a narcissist has is knowing someone depends on their approval. If they can make another person crave compliments, attention, or acceptance, they gain influence. The Sigma female quietly removes that advantage. Her confidence doesn't come from applause, it comes from self-respect. Of course, she enjoys appreciation like anyone else. Kind words matter. Love matters. Support matters. But she doesn't build her identity around someone else's opinion. That makes manipulation much more difficult. If a narcissist suddenly withdraws affection hoping she'll chase after it, she usually doesn't. If compliments disappear, she doesn't panic. She doesn't desperately try to earn them back. She simply notices the change, and that calm independence often confuses someone who expected emotional dependence. 2. She pays attention to patterns, not performances. Narcissistic behavior often begins with a powerful first impression. Charm, confidence, generosity, grand promises. To many people, it's convincing. The Sigma female enjoys good first impressions, but she doesn't trust them completely. She watches what happens after the excitement fades. Does this person's behavior remain consistent? Do they treat everyone with respect, or only people who can benefit them? Do their actions match their words? She understands something important. Anyone can perform for a day. Character reveals itself over time. Instead of becoming attached to potential, she studies consistency. Eventually, repeated behavior tells the truth. And once she recognizes the pattern, it becomes very difficult to manipulate her perception again. 3. She doesn't fear being alone. One of the greatest weapons manipulation has is fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of loneliness. Fear of starting over. A narcissist often assumes that if someone fears being alone enough, they'll tolerate almost anything to avoid losing the relationship. The Sigma female quietly challenges that assumption. She values meaningful relationships, but she values inner peace even more. She has already learned that loneliness is temporary. Constant emotional exhaustion is not. If staying means sacrificing her dignity, she leaves. Not because leaving is easy, but because staying has become harder. That willingness to walk away removes enormous leverage from anyone trying to control her. Because you cannot easily threaten someone with loneliness when they've already learned how to find peace within themselves. 4. She asks questions. Instead of accepting excuses, manipulative people often rely on confusion. Long explanations, half-truths, changing the subject, making someone doubt their own memory. The Sigma female listens carefully. Then she asks simple questions, calm questions, clear questions, questions that require honest answers. Instead of getting lost in complicated stories, she focuses on facts. She asks, why does this keep happening? Why do your words and actions never seem to match? Why does the same problem keep repeating? She isn't trying to win an argument. She's trying to understand reality. And once reality becomes clear, excuses lose much of their power. 5. She doesn't react the way they expect. Perhaps the most frustrating thing for a narcissist is unpredictability. Many manipulative people expect emotional reactions: anger, begging, desperation, long emotional messages. The Sigma female often responds differently. She stays calm, she listens. Sometimes she says very little. Sometimes she simply leaves the conversation. This isn't emotional coldness, it's emotional discipline. She understands that not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every battle deserves participation. Her calmness doesn't mean she feels nothing. It means she refuses to hand someone control over her emotional state. Ironically, this quiet composure often creates more discomfort for a manipulative person than any argument ever could, because manipulation depends on reaction. And when the reaction never arrives, the strategy begins to fail. 6. She sets boundaries without feeling guilty. One of the biggest frustrations for a narcissist is encountering someone who isn't afraid to say no. The Sigma female understands that boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They protect her time, her energy, her emotional well-being. If someone repeatedly disrespects her, she doesn't keep making excuses for them. She doesn't endlessly explain why she's hurt, hoping they'll suddenly change. She communicates her boundary clearly, and if that boundary continues to be ignored, she acts. Many manipulative people rely on guilt to weaken boundaries. They may say she's overreacting, too sensitive, selfish, or difficult. Years ago, those words might have affected her, but experience has taught her something important. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. The Sigma female knows that saying yes to everyone often means saying no to herself, and she's no longer willing to make that trade. 7. She recognizes gaslighting before it takes root. One of the most damaging manipulation tactics is gaslighting. It causes someone to question their own memory, their emotions, even their perception of reality. A narcissist may say, "That never happened. You're imagining things. You're too emotional. You're remembering it wrong." The Sigma female doesn't assume she's perfect. She knows anyone can misunderstand a situation, but she also trusts patterns. If someone's version of reality constantly changes, if every problem somehow becomes everyone else's fault, if honest conversations always end with confusion instead of clarity, she pays attention. She doesn't argue endlessly trying to convince someone to admit the truth. She simply begins trusting consistent evidence over repeated denial, because she understands that clarity is healthier than constant confusion. 8. She doesn't need to win the argument. Many people believe victory means having the last word. The Sigma female disagrees. She believes the greatest victory is protecting her peace. If someone refuses to listen, refuses to take responsibility, or continues twisting every conversation, she eventually stops participating. Not because she lost, because she realizes some conversations have no healthy destination. A narcissist often expects endless emotional engagement. Hours of defending, explaining, arguing, trying to prove who's right. Instead, the Sigma female quietly steps away. She understands that you cannot force self-awareness onto someone who refuses to examine themselves. Sometimes silence is more powerful than another explanation, not because silence changes the other person, but because it frees her from the cycle. 9. She doesn't seek revenge. She moves forward. Many people expect heartbreak to produce revenge. Angry messages, public arguments, attempts to make someone jealous. The Sigma female usually chooses something far more powerful: growth. She focuses on healing, learning, rebuilding her confidence, strengthening her friendships, pursuing her goals. She's not trying to prove her worth. She already knows it. Ironically, this often frustrates manipulative people even more, because they expected continued emotional attachment. Instead, they discover someone who is gradually becoming happier without them. The Sigma female understands a simple truth: the opposite of love isn't hate. It's emotional freedom. And once she reaches that point, there's very little left to manipulate. 10. She quietly walks away when respect is gone. Perhaps the greatest mistake a narcissist makes is assuming the Sigma female will stay forever. She's patient, she communicates, she forgives, she tries to understand. But patience should never be mistaken for endless tolerance. There comes a moment when she realizes that respect can no longer be rebuilt by words alone. And when that moment arrives, she leaves. Quietly. Without dramatic speeches. Without endless attempts to be understood. Not because she stopped caring, but because she finally started caring about herself just as much. For many manipulative people, this is the most shocking part. They expected another argument, another chance, another opportunity to regain control. Instead, they find silence. And by the time they realize she's serious, her decision has already been made. Because once a Sigma female reaches emotional certainty, she rarely looks back. Conclusion. The greatest misconception about Sigma females is that they defeat narcissists through confrontation. Most of the time, they don't. They simply refuse to participate in unhealthy patterns. They choose boundaries over guilt, clarity over confusion, peace over endless conflict, growth over revenge. This doesn't mean every interaction is easy. Manipulative people can affect anyone. Even emotionally intelligent people sometimes question themselves. The difference is that the Sigma female eventually steps back, reflects, recognizes the pattern, and chooses a healthier path. She understands something many people spend years trying to learn. You cannot change someone who refuses to change themselves, but you can always choose how long you remain in an unhealthy situation. In the end, the narcissist doesn't lose because the Sigma female destroys them. They lose because they can no longer control someone who has learned to value self-respect more than approval. And that's a kind of freedom no manipulation can ever take away. If this video resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Which sign do you think frustrates manipulative people the most? Strong boundaries, emotional independence, or the willingness to walk away? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more videos on Sigma female psychology, relationships, Carl Jung, and personal growth. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.